Hello, I'm Kads and welcome to today's video. Today is a special occasion. We are officially joining the Church of Whisper. Showcases are pretty rare on the channel, but we're going to do one today showcasing or showing off Whisper in a couple of areas where she's particularly powerful, but generally speaking, she is very strong against bosses. So let us go find my Whisper here amongst all the epics, and let's quickly run through her kit. Why is she so good in her very niche scenarios? So on the A1, attacks one enemy 50% chance, that books up to a 75% chance of placing the big version of Weaken, which is nice, but not necessary to build her with accuracy for that per se. A2 here, really strong ability here. Attacks one enemy, places increased attack on herself and increased crit rate, which is very important. Keep this in mind for 2 turns before attacking. And if the target has higher max HP, or if the target has higher max HP than the champion, which again, we're targeting bosses, and that will always be the case. She's never going to have more max HP than a boss. This will ignore defense of the target if they are under a weaken debuff. Very powerful, very potent. So one, she could place it on her A1, but generally speaking, you set her up with someone who already places Weaken, and this literally will ignore an entire boss's defense pool, so it can smack very hard, and she provides herself with increased crit rate, and it stays on basically while she cycles back to her abilities, so you only have to build her with 70% crit rate, as we will see shortly in her build. The A3 is pretty cool as well. It attacks one enemy 2 times, but it will grant an extra turn if the target is under decreased defense and Weaken. Again, she does bring the Weaken, but you want to bring someone alongside her who has decreased defense and Weaken preferably, so you don't have to build her with accuracy for whatever you're facing. And then on a 4-turn cooldown, basically she just gets a free extra turn to go into more A1s or more A2s. And then if that's not enough, she just has a 10% chance of getting extra turn randomly whenever this champion lands a critical hit, and she increases the damage inflicted on bosses by 20%. Now the great thing about her is that she is not an enemy max HP champion, so she's not capped in terms of damage. So if you build her properly, or you build her well enough, she can actually out damage enemy max HP champions just because her hits are uncapped. As you can see, I do have a blessing on her. I'm running Phantom Touch. It's relatively low, just a 1-star, and that's probably what you want to run up until 5-star or up until 6-star. But if you do manage to get a 6-star soul for your Whisper, then you most certainly do want to switch over to Crushing Rend, because you can ignore defense for every 10 levels, and a lot of waves and bosses or whatever are like 200, 300 something levels. So you can ignore a ton more defense. Obviously, it won't affect the A2. It already ignores entirety of defense if they have a weakened debuff, but it will improve her damage drastically for the A1 and the A3. So if we take a look at the gear on her in particular, you can see that I have her in a Cruel set and Relentless. Relentless is very powerful on her just because you get extra turns on top of getting extra turns on her A3 and her passive, and they can proc it simultaneously, because the extra turn from the Relentless set can proc at the beginning, or procs at the beginning of her turn, and the other ones usually proc after her turn ends, because she has to deal damage, or she has to hit the target, and they have to have decreased defense and Weaken on the A3, for example, and so it's after she attacks that it checks that the boss or what the target had the debuffs on them. And then for her passive, she has to land a critical hit, so she has to physically go hit the target to get that extra turn as well. So you can actually get back to back extra turns. You can just see her go crazy nuts and just start doing a ton of damage. Taking a look at her total stats, you can see here that we have just under 6,000 on the attack, a little bit of HP, 36,000. Don't really care about her defense, but she is up to 2,000, so she can take a little bit of a hit. 214 on the speed, 70% on the crit rate, 247 on the crit damage, and then a little bit of accuracy. It wasn't really intentional, but Relentless is hard to come by, and so I made do with the pieces that I had. But ideally, I would get more crit damage, push that closer to like 270-ish, a little bit more speed, and then sacrifice what little accuracy she already has. This is most certainly the type of champion that you want to run like an attack banner, for example, like this one. So you definitely want to run attack banner. Again, you don't really need accuracy on her. If you really desperately need her to place the Weaken, you can definitely put her in an accuracy banner, but ideally you surround her with a team that can take care of that for her. So I wanted to show Whisper off in a couple of areas. Like I said, she's generally good anywhere against any boss. She can do a significant amount of damage, but I think these are 2 areas where she particularly shines quite well. And the first area here is the Dark Fae. So no, I recently revamped this team. I took out Royal Guard and I put in Whisper just to try her out. I was definitely a skeptic of Whisper. Like, I knew she was good and I've seen her do amazing things, but I didn't think that I could actually pull it off with my level of gear. But I was pleasantly surprised. And yeah, so like I said, she replaced Royal Guard in this team. And you can see with this team with Dark Fae, we do have Herndig in here, who is our copy killer. He kills kills the clones, but he also has decreased defense and notably weaken, which is very powerful. We have Yakarl the Scourgeon here, previous fusion on Herndig. We have Yakarl from the clan shop, and he is our primary decreased speed champion, but also turn meter manipulation. Allure, of course, single target, turn meter manipulation, great. Cold Heart, enemy max HP damage, turn meter drop, so a little bit more turn meter control and enemy max HP. And then, like I said, we have Whisper here. So Royal Guard, I took him out just to try Whisper because one, I had a hunch that she might be able to out damage enemy max HP, and on Royal Guard, his takedown is on a 4-turn cooldown, and her ability is on a 3-turn cooldown, and then you account for a couple of relentless procs here and there, and she's going to get it more often than a Royal Guard would get back to his takedown, even though I used to have Mind and Reflex. I rebuilt him into a Savage, but I digress. And so on top of that, decreased speed, like I said, Yakarl is our primary one, and Royal Guard was more of a backup decreased defense, or decreased speed, sorry. He was backup decreased speed, and so he wasn't really necessary for him to land it in the comp. It was just beneficial to kind of have a little bit of redundancy, but when you have a time that's under 2 minutes, it's not really that important. And then for Royal Guard's A1, my Freudian slip there, he has decreased defense, but of course Herndig has decreased defense, so basically everything he could do was a little bit redundant, and so we're bringing in Whisper because we have an ample amount of turn meter control across the 4 other champions on this comp, and really we're just swapping out a little bit of damage for a little bit more damage. Let's go ahead and see this team in action. I will talk a little bit about the AI overrides, but the full version of this team, minus Whisper, of course, is in my previous video on the Dark Fae, which you can check out in the card above if you want to see that, but it's featuring predominantly the exact same champions. So I do have Herndig using his A3 to start, just to ensure that he gets a kill on the first wave, because I do want him to get faster than Allure with the mastery that gives him speed for kills. And then we have him A2 on wave 2 just to place decreased defense. They are negative affinity, so it may not happen all the time. So one thing here that's really good about Herndig is that I force him to A1 so that he always resets and has the A3 available, so that he can lead off with a weaken, so that Whisper can start right off like that and hit a big smack of 242k. Now, she's not quite gonna hit as hard as the Heartseeker we're gonna see there at 280, but once she starts to get going a little bit, oh, there we go, 260, so we're kind of climbing a little bit more damage. A little bit of a relentless procs there on top of the A3, giving her the extra turn. So you can see that she can really start to snowball very, very quickly. And then, like I said, we have 4 champions in here managing the turn meter. We have Yakarl, who's going to run in right now, do a little turn meter steal. We have Cold Heart's A3, we have Allure's A1, and then Herndig on the A3 can also throw in some turn meter control. So Cold Heart again capped at 280,000, and now that the boss is low, a couple more masteries should come in and we should start hitting. There you go, 308. And then an extra turn. Oh, I think she just kills it here. Extra turn, and boom, kill shot. There we go. Fastest time. Look at that. Here live on the channel. So 90-second run. That's the fastest run. So just showcasing there, like the power of the stacked extra turns, because the like I said, the A3 and the passive roll when she actually hits the target, and the relentless proc happens at the beginning of the turn. So you can actually get a lot of back-to-back extra turns, and she can do exactly what you just did there with the massive 300,000 hits when the targets are low. Now, I will mention that there is a lot of RNG in this composition. We do have Reflex on Cold Heart and Yakarl, and if they don't proc enough, the Dark Fae might get a turn. We have Relentless on Allure, so again, if that doesn't proc ever, then she might get a turn. So it's not a 100% chance of guaranteeing that we control her turn meter, but as long as we don't get like true feared out or something, then we can recover and keep getting back into the cycle of turn meter control. But I'm not going to promise that this comp or any comp is going to be 100% success rate here, but it doesn't matter because this is not energy. These are keys, and it's again a fast run when it's successful. So you're 90 seconds, maybe like 2.5 minutes if you have less quality champions per se, but it's not that bad if you just have to rerun it once every couple of days when it happens to fail. So the other area that I wanted to show off Whisper is actually in the Phantom Shogun's Grove. There was a comment a few days ago asking if I can showcase my progression through the dungeon. Since I acknowledged that I hadn't even done it, I was still on stage 1. And yeah, I was running one team, the same team, all the way up to here till stage 16. We can run stage 16 as an example. But this is the team. Unfortunately, I am an owner of Riho Bone Spear, and she's very, very good, probably too good for this dungeon. But I do think that her position could be swapped out for a Ruella because she has a chance to land a decreased defense, weaken, as well as decreased speed on a triple hitter, which is practically guaranteed a lot of instances. Unfortunately, she won't work for stage 25. She's negative affinity, so you might need some sort of replacement there. But nonetheless, she is a champion that can definitely do that job. Now, this isn't meant to be a Shogun's Grove guide or anything like that, but nonetheless, I will explain the nuances of this particular composition. So if we find the team down here, we have Gnarlhorn in the team as our enfeeble tank, because on the A1, it's really, really cool that this attack cannot be strong, critical, or weak, the last bit being the most important. So he cannot weak hit the boss regardless of whether or not he has enfeeble on him. So it's very powerful. But in order for him to do his job, the enfeeble tank, you do need to have him be the highest crit damage on the team. And in this case, you can see we have 261 on the crit damage. And then it is a added bonus that he does have this ability to place himself on unkillable for 2 turns, which is very useful for keeping him alive for the duration of the fight. Riho is of course doing her bread and butter ability here with pressure points, placing every debuff under the sun, but most notably decrease defense and weaken to help activate our whisper, and then decrease attack, decrease crit rate to help us take less damage. But she also comes back around with the cleanse, which is very useful to cleanse off the other debuffs that the boss will try to place on us, and also a little bit of healing for anyone who might be hurt. We have Newt in here because Newt. Enemy max HP, Blessed Bash, of course. Whisper in here, our showcase champion. Notably, we are starting off with the Unyielding Flurry, the A3, because we do want to proc that extra turn to help her start getting out of the disabled passive, because that means that she can't get the extra turn from her passive, and she won't deal 20% more damage to bosses. So we want to start with that, even though she might not crit a lot of the time, 70% of the time, I guess, she'll crit. But it gives her an extra turn, and then she can go right into this ability here, placing increased attack on herself, increase crit rate, hopefully weaken lands on the boss, and then she can just basically start the fight off by chunking the boss's health. Then Renegade in here, of course, reset, so we can do the same cycle all over again. So let's go ahead and see this team in action. So like I said, Gnarlhorn is our enfeeble tank, so he's going to take the aggro, and also we have Riho following up with her debuffs, and then Blessed Bash from Newt. So we're starting off by chunking a huge amount of health from the boss. We get the A3 extra turn, comes in with the big smack here, ignoring all of the target's defense, and just from one turn cycle, we've brought the boss below half HP. There's the cleanse from Riho. Now, if I had like a Kaimar or a Yumiko, it would be a clean reset, and we'd be able to rinse and repeat exactly from there. But unfortunately, I don't have those champions. We have Renegade, and we make do with what we have. So there we go. Debuffs are placed once again. We get Blessed Bash back. He takes a turn, and then Whisper should come in for the final blow whenever she gets her turn. Boom, ignoring defense, 266,000 damage. So like I said, I cannot promise that this exact composition will work on stage 25. It probably won't work most of the time because Newt will be negative affinity, and so you'd have to swap him out for something else. I don't exactly know what. Maybe a ninja or a cold heart. I don't know. I'd have to really see and investigate. And I'll be investigating that on my own in the future. But nonetheless, this is the team that I've been using to progress, and I've just been full auto every single stage up until now. All right, so that's going to do it for today's video. Like I said at the top, we are now officially an acolyte of the Church of Whisper. I have been convinced. I've been turned around. She is absolutely amazing. Definitely a boss killer, and she's actually sped up. Well, she's part of the reason I created that Phantom Shogun's team, but she actually sped up my Dark Fae team. We even got a PR on the record today with her. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys are also a huge fan of Whisper and where you use her in the game. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below, and feel free to subscribe to the channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.